Hi, and welcome to the art making portion of Lesson 1 called Respect Me, I Am a Masterpiece. This is the first art making project in my unit, and we are going to be decorating a frame to be held in front of a student or yourself's face. So I've already kind of gotten started with the first few couple of steps. What we're going to be focusing on today is the painting portion. So in the original unit plan, the student would originally be given a frame already cut out of raw cardboard, and then they would be given pieces of cardboard to cut out and make shapes and paste to the frame to give it a more three-dimensional aspect. As you see here, I cut out some triangles and some strips of cardboard and glued them on there. And the reason this is already done was for sake of time, because your students are going to have to glue the pieces onto the raw cardboard first before they start priming it or painting it, because if they paint it and then glue it, the pieces will only be adhering to the paint and not the actual cardboard itself, so you want as much of a strong hold as you can. So I went ahead and pasted my cardboard pieces onto my frame and then gessoed the whole thing. I didn't have actual gesso right now because of the quarantine, but I was able to put on a layer of white paint just so my colors don't sink into the cardboard and you can see them a little bit brighter. What I used for this was a medium box I got from Walmart, which was about $2. And it was really nice because for one box you can cut out 4 of these squares and cut out a middle to make it into a frame. And then for each child, they'd also get a piece of the flap to cut out any designs they would wish. If you're at home and you don't have a full box, you can use a cereal box to cut out and paste together, or a stronger form of paper, or anything really that can be formed into this kind of shape. The materials you're going to need are going to be paint. I got this from Michael's for I believe 60 or 70 cents, and hashtag not spawn, but right now you can actually order online at Michael's and go pick it up curbside, which is what I did to get most of these supplies. So I just have a good rainbow of colors options for myself, and some paint brushes. If you don't have any paint brushes, you can always use your hands or anything that will put paint down. And for adhering the pieces of cardboard to the frame, you can use a glue gun. I only needed about 1 full stick of hot glue to do what you can see here, but you can also use any liquid craft glue like Elmer's glue or crazy glue or anything like that. And you're also going to need a cup of water and some paper towels to be cleaning your brushes in between colors. So I'm going to go ahead and take you through the painting process. For the students in this lesson, we're going to be focusing on the elements of art. So I went ahead and prepared a little description of that in case you need any refreshers. Elements of art are line, color, value, shape, form, space, and texture. Now, for the three-dimensional aspect of this frame, they'd be focusing on form, space, and texture, how they handle space, any texture they decide to put in the cardboard, and the forms that they want to make in 3 dimensions. But for today, we're doing the painting, so we'll be focusing on line, color, value, and shape. I also went ahead and glued a palette onto the side of our working space today. All I did was glue a page of a magazine on there so that the paint doesn't sink into any of the materials today, and that's what we're going to use. So we're going to go ahead and go into the painting portion. I'm just going to give you a demonstration of each of the elements of art, and you can use this in any combination you wish. So I'm going to go ahead and start out with some blue, a nice bright color. Oops, some of that dry paint fell down. And I'm going to squeeze that onto my palette, put that to the side. I'm going to pick a thinner brush, as you can see right here, but I'm trying to work with some controlled lines. When you're teaching your students, it's also important to let them know maybe what brush they want to use, especially if they're sharing, and when they would need to use each. So I'm going to go ahead and dip into the blue, and I want to focus on the fluidity of line. So I'm just going to go in here with some nice flowy lines, create some movement in the piece. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to go ahead and explain why we're decorating a frame. As you saw in the presentation, the students will be decorating a frame to hold in front of their face during a living museum. So parents will come to a presentation where the students are going to talk about themselves, what makes them different and unique, where they want to go, what they want to do. And so they really just want to, for this project, you're also going to want to just, capture things you like about yourself, why you're unique, what makes you different, your goals, just an abstract presentation of ways you want to embellish around, the way people see you, because you deserve the respect that everyone else does. So I'm already kind of going in and finishing up with my line. As you can see, I did some more organic, flowy choices in there, but you can also decide to do maybe, how about I go in with some yellow and do some straighter lines. As you can see, I put a little bit too much paint on there. It's important for younger students to be told only use as much paint as you really need for a design so we don't waste. But you can also go in with some straighter lines. They don't have to be flowy like I did before. Oops, I went in the wrong color. You can also mix your paints. I'm gonna go ahead and make a green now. You can also give your students less paint options so that they have to mix. The brighter the colors, the better, because when you mix, the colors do dull. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn that into a lime green. Move that along the frame. All right, so we've already kind of been talking about color, the mixing of it, choosing it. I find that students get really excited about talking about complementary colors and how they affect each other. So if we used blue right there, something that'd be really captivating for your piece would be to introduce orange. I have this orange right here, and if we want, we can go ahead and explore some shapes with that around the blue. So maybe you want to do some rectilinear shapes, like some circles. Maybe some rectangles too. Or some organic shapes, like some little blobby shapes. As you can tell, the orange really brings out the blue, and the blue really brings out the orange because they're opposites on the color wheel. So we have one more left, and that's going to be value. And I'm going to go ahead and take y'all through my favorite color, which is purple, and show you how to experience or experiment with some value here. When I took my painting 1 class, they told us it was easier if we build up our shades on the palette first before you actually go into your piece. So to make things lighter and darker, we're going to go ahead and create some shades. So what you'd have to do is get your color, so your hue that you want. I chose purple. And then you're going to grab your white on this side and some black. and just kind of build out a nice little color variant on the side here. So first I'm going to start with some darker colors. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of purple. And usually you'd use some palettes to mix this so you don't get the paint really digging up into your paintbrush because that ruins it. But for the sake of today, we are just going to be using what we have. So I just dipped in a little bit of black and put that in there. A little black goes a long way, so you just kind of have to eyeball and see if that one's too dark. Next time you might want to add a little bit less black. So I'm going to take a little bit more purple and just very lightly dip it in the black. It's a little bit of a lighter color. Purple's kind of hard too because it's a very dark color. If you were to take a black and white picture of this palette right now, this would be the darkest color, most definitely. Yellow would be the lightest. So I think I'm done with my black, so I'm going to focus on trying to get this lighter now. Add some more purple there. To get things lighter, you're going to want to add white. And when you're making these value scales, it's also important that you have some brighter colors because when you make them lighter and darker, they also dull out. So that's a good medium tone, I think. And then I'm gonna add some more over here. And let's do a pretty light one. So I'm gonna get a good amount of white in there. So then you kind of figure out. So now I have all these different values here of my purple, and you just kind of determine how that's going to best suit your pieces. I'm actually going to add a little bit more of purple to this one. This one's looking a bit dark. So yes, you just decide what you want to do with each of these values and how that's going to affect how your piece turns out and the mood of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and I think I want to do some dots running down the top and the bottom of this to show some symmetry and repetition. In my other lessons, I focus on the principles of design, but if your students have already gone through that lesson, you can also engage them and bring their prior knowledge out and say like, oh, while we're working with value, I'm going to show some repetition or symmetry just to bring back those things and realize that just because we're not using that in this lesson or focusing on it, they can still use those aspects of art because that's what they're there for. So I'm going to go ahead and choose. It's best to decide which one is your lightest and darkest value. So I'm going to say this is my darkest, next darkest, next darkest, next lightest, and then lightest. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to do a little bit of a gradient here in my circles. And I'm going to do a circle here with my darkest color and another circle over here. And then wash out a little bit. And then get my next darkest circle and do one there. Do one here. That out. And then my next darkest one is going to be my original from the tube color. Add that one right here. Then I'm going to get the second to lightest, put that one there, put that one here. And then my final color, which is the lightest, is going to be, oop, I got some paint on there, is going to be the most lavender color. I'm going to put that there. As you can see, the color isn't completely opaque. Most of the time this kind of paint's going to need a couple of layers, but also it would help if I had real gesso to have a clear and thick coating of white so the paint can really stick on it. So you can kind of see some of the white shining through some of this paint. If I go in with another layer or two, it will be very opaque and you won't be able to see through anything. So yep, there is my demo of the lesson 1 art making activity. I hope you guys have fun. Make this your own. Do whatever you want with the materials that you have at home. And yeah, just keep in mind this can be for you, for a friend, just any way that you can show that someone deserves to be their own masterpiece. So yes, I hope y'all have a very good day and safe quarantine.